So it's been a couple days since the previous CS2 update dropped, which kind of changed everything around the market, or at least what we believe to have. Because again, it did introduce the new case system. A lot of people are speculating on if this is going to be the new case system going forward. I hope that it's not. But beyond that, we also got another piece of intel around that update, which was the fracture case getting removed from active drop pool. Now, it did cause the fracture case to go insane. It hit 79 cents in terms of euros. And this was on the 21st. And then also on top of that, it did almost hit $1. It did hit $1 actually on Steam. And then since then, things have started to kind of cool off. Now, we'll talk about that here in a second. But we can see over here from CSGO Case Tracker that confirmed rare. The fracture case is now confirmed rare, aka it is removed from active drop. Over the last week, 651,000 fracture cases have been opened. Now, this is not close to some of these other cases, like for an example, Dreams and Nightmares, which has over 816,000 opened. Also the recoil case over 778,000, and then also the revolution case at 930 plus thousand, and then also the kilowatt case at 765,000, and last but not least, of course, the fever case, which is over 1.7 million opened in the last week. So if we're looking at this, yeah, the fracture case is not getting open nearly as much as some of these other cases, but this is still a very significant amount opened in the last week. Now, on top of this, the fracture case did drop. It was down to about 58 cents in euros after rising to 90. The 7-day trade lock, since the update isn't even over, are people panic selling after they saw the drop of the gallery case. Note, the large supply of fracture cases is definitely a factor. Now, I do think that that is a big piece of, the puzzle here, because again, some people are getting fracture cases on the low, and they're probably just liquidating some of them. They want to sell them fast. But also the market is going to have fluctuations. Looking at the last 24 hours, the fracture case isn't doing too bad, right? This is the last day. We could see that over 89,000, almost 90,000 of the fracture cases were opened in the last 24 hours. And as this continues on and on and on, the supply of the fracture cases is going to diminish. So right now, we're seeing a slight hiccup in the market. I still think that the fracture case is a solid buy. And I'll talk about why here in a second, but just looking at the fracture case right now on the 7-day, the 30-day, and even the 60-day, it's up 40+% in the last 7 days, 60% in the last 30 days, and 71+% in the last 60 days. There has been a significant amount of volume behind the fracture case as well. And listen, we know that we're not going to buy this on Steam or anything like that, but the Steam market in terms of the price, it did drop significantly down to about 60 some cents, which isn't a, terrible area to buy the fracture case at. However, we were buying this thing at sub 40, sub 30 cents. So buying this at almost 2 times the price, I don't think is going to be the best, case for us. But I still think that on some of these other platforms, we can get it on the low around like 40 some cents, or maybe possibly even around like 30 some cents, which if we can, 30 cents is probably unheard of at this point, but around like 40 to 50 cents isn't a bad call. And I still think that this case, like I said, is going to be a very big, buy in the future. And what I mean by that is a lot of people will buy this case for the skins in it. Now, if we're thinking about the skins in it, are they extremely sought after? Well, right off the rip, we look at the golds. Are there golds in this case that are going to be something that a lot of people buy this case if it's cheaper than some of the other cases that some of these golds are involved in? Are they going to buy this case over them? Well, looking at the golds, there's not like a crazy amount of extremely sought after knives. There's definitely a few that I personally like within here. But there's not like rubies or Dopplers or butterflies or anything like that. But one that stands out to me is the case hardened skeleton. I could see people hunting blue gems within this case. Again, is that a reach? Sure, you could argue that, but there's definitely a few other decent golds in here. Like, for an example, the Crimson Web skeleton as well. There's definitely a lot of other case hardens within this as well, but for the most part, I think that the biggest selling point is just some of these skins involved in the case. There's definitely some good golds, but I think most people will be looking for the Deagle print stream, which isn't an extremely sought after skin. I just still think that it's going to be one that people kind of hunt in this case. This skin also, by the way, has skyrocketed since the update, as you guys can see, going from 188 to about $223+. And I do think that this is most likely just going to be the beginning for this. The upside potential on this skin is extremely significant. So if you were looking at some decent buys, I do think that this one's going to be included in that, which, by the way, I might make a video on skins to be buying right now while the market is still kind of low. And looking at some of the other skins like the AK, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Legion of Anubis, but just looking at this, the price has started to kind of go up a bit. Almost every single AK skin, because again, there's really not a lot of outliers here. Almost every single AK skin has gone crazy over the last couple weeks. And, we kind of knew that the market was going to go insane, but, this is kind of taking it to other levels. But also the Tooth Fairy, I do like the Tooth Fairy. This is still a pretty cheap skin, by the way. I mean, we're thinking about this in factory new stat track. I mean, this thing is, still extremely cheap, and, it doesn't look too bad in game. I know that a lot of people, have their own opinions on this, but I still think that this is a skin that, will at some point in time be a pretty rare skin. I mean, it's not extremely rare simply because it is a classified, but I do think that it is a nice looking skin. And then also, last but not least, I mean, the Vogue in this case is also not too bad of a Glock skin. It's still a classified, so it's not extremely rare, but just looking at it in game, I mean, it looks very, very clean. So, I could see some of these going up in value in a big way. Are they going to reach their high points, like going back here to like $200, $300 or so, whatever? I don't believe so, but I could see this hitting $100 at some point, maybe. In Stat Track Factory New, which is a gain of like about $80 from where it's currently trading. And same with like the M4A4 Tooth Fairy. I think that this could also hit around $100. The AK, let's push to about like, $200 possibly. It just really depends on if there's going to be a significant amount of demand for these skins. They're not like the best looking ones. They're not the extremely sought after ones, but the Deagle, I could definitely see being up there. A lot of people like to collect the print stream collection, and also it goes good with white combos. So I definitely do think that this could be one that rises drastically. But the main thing that we're focused on here is the case. Is the fracture case something that we should still be investing into? Well, considering the fact that it did just get removed and it is starting to have that correction, I do think that this is going to be a solid buy opportunity. I mean, we're talking about trading around the same prices that we were back on like the 16th and, closer to like the 17th, if you will. I think that this is going to be a case considering the fact that it is getting open quite a bit. I mean, it's not like a crazy amount. It's still a decent amount. I do think that this case will eventually dry up in terms of supply. And is there going to be a massive amount of demand for it? Well, I still think that there's going to be a demand for the fracture case skins. So I do think that the fracture case will bounce back. Right now, we're probably just seeing a slight little hiccup in the market. I mean, in terms of the actual market cap around the CS2 market, I mean, we've been kind of boring over the last couple of days. So, people are probably selling a bit, getting some liquidity. Maybe they want to buy something. So, utilize this time properly. I mean, we're only down about 2% in the last 24 hours. Buff price around like 48 cents. Anything under 50 cents is a steal, in my opinion, on the fracture case, because I do think that at some point in time, we could be seeing the high like $3 to $5 range on this case. It wouldn't, be crazy to me, but we'll have to watch, wait, and see. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, and turn notifications on to never miss a future update. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.